Alright, what's good everybody? It's your man Levi here today with another video. Now, originally I had something kind of fun planned for today, but with everything going on, I just don't think it would be appropriate to post that. But I still want to give you a good quality content video. So this one is for everyone who lives in the GTA, yes, the Greater Toronto Area. So today we have a special guest with us. He is very knowledgeable in this area of protesting. So I think it would be very wise for me to give you his tips and suggestions. And here's what he had to say. Mr. Ziegler, how are you today?
I'm doing just great, Jaden. Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you and your team for doing this interview with me on such short notice. It was really last minute, but thank you guys. You guys are really amazing over there. But as you know, Toronto is having their first batch of protests this weekend. I thought it would be amazing if you could share with us really what to expect and some tips and tricks on how to make this demonstration better.
I know the question, there's a theme is really what is it like to be in the middle of a demonstration? And to answer that, I mean, I was involved in a lot of the demonstrations back in the 1960s for civil rights and against the war in Vietnam. And it was both very exhilarating and very frightening. Um, Exhilarating when you look around you and you see thousands, tens of thousands of people who think like you and are acting like you, and are willing to stand up for what you believe in and be counted. And it's frightening in that there can be panic on both sides, both on the part of the protesters and part of the police. The term riot police is, in fact, I guess, a multiple double entendre because uh, they're there to quell any riots. They can cause riots, and they riot themselves by beating on the protesters who are doing nothing but being peaceful. Remember that there are agents provocateurs. There are people who have no interest in peaceful demonstrations, who are out there just to antagonize. They hide in the background. They'll throw rocks from the back, knowing that the police will never get to them because they're 10 deep in front of them are the peaceful protesters who are the ones who are going to get their heads bashed. And this has happened over and over again. To say that all the police are bad is just like saying all the demonstrators are rioters and looters. It's just not true. But when you get clubbed and gassed, sometimes that can uh, be a little bit hard not to want to respond emotionally.
So you're saying it can be very easy to lose control, especially if you're a protest leader or just an innocent, peaceful protester, or even someone there just to create anarchy and gain attention. It's
Well,
very
I
easy to
think
lose
that's the
control.
problem is that the police are going to respond to the rioters and then the peaceful protesters get caught in the middle. You have a tremendous advantage today, I must say, because you have technology that you can use to make sure that the truth wills out. You get a much clearer picture today than 50 years ago as to what's going on. Back then, the police could have said that George Floyd, for example, was actively resisting, that he was armed because after the fact they put a gun or a knife in his hand, or some other made up story. You can't do that today because we have video. And that's a tremendous advantage to today's protesters. And this, I think, is very important. I think it's very important to see what goes on, who's involved, how they're involved, and when they're just peaceful demonstrators being tear gassed and beaten by the police, that is wrong. And what they have to do is get the rioters who are in the background, and those are the people who really need to be, quelled because they're the ones who are causing the trouble, not the peaceful demonstrators. And that always has to be remembered.
So regarding the upcoming protests for Toronto, here's a quick tweet from Black Lives Matter Toronto. This is what they said. BLMTO has no involvement in the organizing of any of this weekend's upcoming articles and marches. We believe in black people mourning, grieving, and protesting, however works for them, and we hope everyone looks out and takes care of each other. So as I was reading through the comments of this tweet, we have a lot of people who are very concerned because one of Toronto's major civil rights organizations are not going to be present at a major civil rights movement. And now we're seeing a lot of unknown organizations step up to the plate and kind of take advantage of this open opportunity. Because we have so many organizations involved and no one really taking the lead focus, a lot of people aren't sure exactly what's going to happen. What can we expect from this? How might this play out?
For a protest to be effective, it has to have a very clear message. You have to be organized, and you also have to self-police. And that's something we actually used to do back in the 60s, is that there would be a group of people who would like make sure that the demonstrators were walking in the right direction, going the right way, and that they stayed nonviolent. So if there's going to be a protest on Saturday, what is the purpose of the protest? What are you trying to achieve with the protest? If you're trying to achieve racial equality in the United States, you need a lesson in geography because you're not in the United States. If you're trying to better racial relations in Toronto, then right on, I'm right with you. I wish I could be there with you. But you have to be organized. And it sounds to me that there's no organization. And when there's no organization, too many people, the agents provocateurs that I talked about, the people who are really out to riot and loot, who have no interest in the cause that you are protesting in favor of. And they're the ones who are going to take advantage of the situation. And that I would be very worried about, especially if I was a young Black man like yourself. I think you've got to decide, do you want to be there if it gets violent? If not, then get out quick. And if you're going to be there, then you better have a bandana to put over your face. You better have a bottle of water so you can wet it, because the tear gas does hurt. And until you've been hit by tear gas, you have no idea what it's like. It's so much worse than just sniffing some pepper up your nose. So I would be very careful about that. You do not want to let the police have an excuse to start beating up on you. Problem is when you have these guys who are out there for different reasons. They may not even be out there for the same reasons you're out there for. They may be out there because they want to overturn the government of Canada. And they're willing to do that because they're anarchists by any means necessary. So this is why I say you have to be organized. You have to have a clear message, and that message then must get through to the majority of people who then can support you, whether they're white or Black or Asian. It doesn't matter. There's a question that I'm often asked, and that is, why does a white person have so much interest in helping Black people?
Mhm.
And I'm not sure that I actually accept the underlying assumption of that question, uh, because I believe in justice and equality for all. Uh, we must be united as human beings in order to make a better world. And I don't know, if you don't have that message for the protest tomorrow, I don't know what the message is. Um, I was so excited when Barack Obama was elected president because I never thought something like that would happen while I was alive. And yet we managed to go from him to literally the worst president that the United States has ever had. So I'm glad that I'm in a position where I can help people who need it. And it happens to be Black people who are at the forefront today, but it also could be Muslims, it could be Jews, it could be anybody who's oppressed politically, economically. Uh, Deprivation comes in many shapes and forms. Uh, my father's parents were uh, religiously Lutheran, but ethnically part Jewish, and they lived in Czechoslovakia back in the 1930s. And the Nazis came in and arrested them, and they were deported to a concentration camp in Terezin, where my grandfather died, and then my grandmother was died on a train to the Auschwitz concentration camp. Uh, they were murdered, just like George Floyd was murdered. Uh, Not the same way, but the same result. Nobody came to their aid. Nobody came to George Floyd's aid. And that is a mentality that I just cannot uh, allow to go on. So that's why I demonstrate. That's why I get involved. That's why I hope that you all get involved. Young people getting involved today is fantastic. And Martin Luther King said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And uh, it's not a smooth path. It never has been. It never will be. There are steps forward. There are steps back. We see that in the United States. You see that in Canada. Uh, but good ultimately will prevail over evil. And I hope that's what I've taught my children and now my grandchildren. And I want to wish you luck, Jaden. I hope the protest goes well. So good luck to you. And any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ziegler, once again for agreeing to do this. I really thought that you, Mr. Ziegler, being such a wise guy, could really help share with us, today's modern day protesters, some of your experiences and tips. And I believe that if we listen to this and if we listen and watch this video and really take in what you're saying, we can have a positive impact all over the world, not just in the States, not just in Toronto. As always, from the bottom of our heart, everyone here at Levi wants to thank you so much. Thank you to your team and crew over there. It really means a lot to us that you kind of dropped everything and threw some answers to the questions I had. So we always appreciate it. Much love. For now on, Levi out.